Last night, a drone hit RF Akrotiri in Cyprus.
This is the British Akrotiri airbase in southwest Cyprus, hit by an Iranian-made Shahed drone on the night of March the 1st. This strike was a turning point, bringing the Middle East war to Europe's doorstep.
Lorsque Chypre est attaquée, c'est l'Europe qui est attaquée.
Cyprus is now emerging as a strategic frontline in a widening and unpredictable conflict. Caught between global powers, regional tensions, and its own decade-long division, the island is becoming a critical geopolitical fault line. What does it mean to live on Europe's frontier in a time of war? That's what we'll see in this episode of Euronews Investigates. The two British bases in Cyprus are more than lines on a map. These sovereign British bases are not only surrounded by protected wild landscapes, but also by villages where residents have grown used to the constant roar of jets, international patrols, and the reality of living on the edge of a volatile region. The island's position is crucial. Around 100 kilometers from Syria, 180 from Lebanon, and just over 200 kilometers from Israel. Iran is 1,000 kilometers away. I'm entering the British sovereign base area of Akrotiri. What you have to know is that the British sovereign territory is far bigger than the perimeter of the base itself, stretching across 9 communities, home to around 40,000 people. Akrotiri is the main village right next to the base and with a strong connection to it. About a third of its residents work there, explained the deputy mayor.
Αυτή είναι η περιφραγμένη περιοχή και εδώ είναι το Ακροτήρι. Εδώ μένουν περίπου 1.240 άτομα. 3 λεπτά μετά τα μεσάνυχτα άκουσα ένα θόρυβο, άκουσα σιρήνες. Προσπάθησα να μιλήσουμε με αξιωματούχους της Δημοκρατίας. Καλέσαν μας στην αστυνομία των βάσεων και μας ενημερώσαν ότι έναν drone έπεσε μέσα στις βάσεις. Κανένας δεν μπορούσε να μας δώσει οδηγία για εκκένωση.
The evacuation order was given the following day and lasted for 10 days. Around 1,000 people were evacuated. They were mainly taken in by relatives, with some housed in a nearby monastery and in hotels. Do you feel safe?
I don't know if I am ready to answer this, αλλά πιστεύω ότι με τα τόσα αμυντικά μέσα που υπάρχουν γύρω μας είναι πολύ δύσκολο να ξεφύγει κάτι να έρθει προς τις βάσεις.
Cyprus, which currently holds the rotating presidency of the Council of the European Union, is not a NATO member and relies on allies for its defense. The UK has allowed the US to use its bases in the country for defensive operations. After the drone attack, France, Italy, Spain and the Netherlands deployed naval assets. Greece also sent military support. A month later, when I visited, the drone attack seemed almost forgotten. There were no warships in sight and fewer warplanes in the sky. The war in the Middle East and the drone attack became something people don't want to talk about.
Τίποτε δεν αλλάξε. Η ζωή συνεχίζεται κανονικότατα. Τίποτε. Και τώρα κάθε λίγο κοιτάζω τον ουρανό πάρτι κανένα που ποτέ. Αντί να ξυμαστεί.
What officials call an isolated incident revealed some deficiencies. As the mayor of Colonial explains, the Republic of Cyprus has no authority to evacuate or take any civil safety measures in almost 60% of his municipality, including Akrotiri, as it's part of the sovereign base areas administered by Britain.
I believe what the attack showed was that nobody was ready, especially the sovereign bases. There are no contingency plans and evacuation plans in the SPA.
What is the general feeling about these bases?
We believe that things should start to change and actually get a clearer sense on whose authorities to do what especially with regards to the civil defense issue. I'm the only mayor in Cyprus that has to deal with two different legislations and basically two different governments.
But the attack also exposed a deeper controversy.
Would you say these British bases are a threat?
After the incident last month, people are starting to change their mind and feeling that having a base right next to us and that gets involved so much in the Middle East crisis that's happening over and over again, it's becoming a threat to the country.
The two British bases of Akrotiri and Dekelia cover around 200 square kilometers, about 3% of Cyprus territory. They were retained when Cyprus gained independence from Britain in 1960. The right-wing Cypriot government has raised questions about the future of the bases after the drone strike, with the issue remaining a long-standing source of political friction. Actress, TV presenter and activist Melanie Stelio is among public figures who see the British bases as a legacy of colonialism. She is speaking out ahead of the May parliamentary elections, where she is a candidate for the left-wing AKEL alliance.
Over 56% of the population of Cyprus don't want the bases to be here anymore. We're not sending our soldiers there, but we're giving Cyprus as a permanent aircraft carrier for the United States of America and any other power that wants to use us, including the bases, including RAF Akrotiri. We're enabling them. We're giving them our facilities to bomb other countries. So how is that exactly creating peace?
The Cypriot Ministers of Defense and Foreign Affairs declined my request to comment on the future of the bases and on key geopolitical issues. The focus instead appears to be on reassurance, with the economy, especially tourism, as a priority. This key sector, which accounts for around 12% of GDP, is very vulnerable to external shocks like conflict. Industry leaders say the response to the drone attack was excessive.
Unjustly so, has been created a big noise out of the incident. It has been augmented as a newsworthy event, which was not so.
It was one remote incident, and there was an overreaction from all over the world that Cyprus is in a war zone, which, as you can see yourself, Cyprus remains a very peaceful, safe, and friendly destination.
There are also several countries that have issued heightened warnings for visiting Cyprus.
We found them overreacting and unjust.
Are they overreacting or are we minimizing?
Cyprus is open and safe, no matter if the war continues.
US and Israeli first strikes on Iran on February 28th hit just as the tourism season in Cyprus was reopening after winter, and hotel bookings fell by nearly 40% in March. Cyprus's Deputy Minister of Tourism says the impact will ultimately depend on how long the conflict lasts.
If the conflict ends tomorrow, I believe that at the end of the day we're going to have a very similar performance to the performance of the year before. If the conflict ends at the end of the year, for example, definitely we will observe a reduction in the total number of tourist arrivals, but that will take place for every single country in the Mediterranean zone, especially for those located in the Eastern Mediterranean.
Cyprus is not part of the conflict, but it's very close to an unpredictable war.
I disagree with you. We are not so close. We are just belonging on the map. Definitely we are thousands of kilometers away from the conflict zone. We are not part of the problem. Cyprus was always acting as a pillar of peace and stability in the area of Eastern Mediterranean.
But is the Middle East war altering the balance on the island? Divided since Turkey's 1974 invasion, triggered by a Greek-backed coup pushing for union with Greece, the island remains split between the internationally recognized EU member Republic of Cyprus in the south and the self-declared Turkish Republic of Northern Cyprus, recognized only by Turkey. A 180-kilometer-long UN buffer zone, the Green Line, separates the two. Nicosia is considered the last divided capital in the world, with the Ledra Street checkpoint cutting through its center.
I have just crossed into a country that officially doesn't exist.
Northern Cyprus is politically dependent on Turkey, a key player in the Middle East crisis. After EU countries deployed military assets in the south, Ankara responded by sending F-16 fighter jets to the north, sparking controversy. I raised this issue with the self-declared Turkish Cypriot administration. Under the gaze of Atatürk, the father of modern Turkey, I sat down with the hardline nationalist foreign minister. Even his title doesn't officially exist, and it felt like stepping into a 3D history book.
Why did you receive these several F-16?
To show to the world and to the Greek Cypriots that Turkish Cypriots enjoy the support and security of the motherland, Turkey. We are not going to allow the balance, the military balance established on the island since 1974 to be changed. If the Greek Cypriots do anything to upset this military balance on the island, then it is our right and Turkey's right to make sure that this balance is restored.
Around 40,000 Turkish troops are stationed in northern Cyprus. The Greek Cypriot side wants them withdrawn, but the Turkish Cypriot side insists they guarantee protection until a peace settlement is reached. Formal negotiations have been stalled since 2017.
So is this conflict widening the gap between the north and the south?
Obviously, the Turkish Cypriot people, they are becoming more aware that there is no well-meaning policies of the Greek Cypriots that respect Turkish Cypriot rights, Turkish Cypriot entity, Turkish Cypriot sovereignty.
Nationalists still hold a majority in the so-called parliament, but their views are losing consensus, and a left-wing opposition leader won the October 2025 presidential election. Even so, analysts say the current regional crisis could make reunification less likely anytime soon.
The most obvious outcome would be a deepening of the separation because people will become entrenched in their own sides. So it's unlikely that, that people would leap to the other side as a result of the conflict unless there was something pushing them there. So unless the UN steps in and says, okay, helping to solve the Cyprus conflict could help us solve other regional issues, but I have a feeling that the United Nations is rather distracted at the moment and probably is not going to be interested enough to take up that opportunity.
Besides the military build-up and geopolitics, the island is also shaped by communities that fled conflicts. Many Israelis and Lebanese have relocated here in search of peace and stability. In Limassol, I met an Israeli Jewish restaurant owner. He arrived in 2022 fleeing violence 1 year before the Hamas terrorist attacks, a traumatic event that prompted many more Israelis to seek refuge here. He complained about graffiti that appeared near his business.
It was a terrorist attack next to us, so we flew to Cyprus. It's close to home, and it's feel like Israel.
Do you want to go back?
No.
Why?
There is no stress here. Everything here, siga, siga.
What is it, siga, siga?
Slowly.
Okay. So what do you think about what's happening in the Middle East at the moment?
We are witnesses to history. The Jewish nation is saving the world from the terror regime in Iran. And with God's help, we will finish them and the world will be a better place.
What about the international laws? That Israeli attacked both Lebanon and Iran.
We are eliminating this threat one and for all. The same thing we are doing with Iran, and the same thing we did with Hamas. It was a threat. They invaded Israel in October 7, 2023.
Does this justify killing civilians?
We didn't start this war.
No, but
we never
but did this justify to kill
We
civilians?
never start the war. We just finishing it.
Like this restaurant owner, a great majority of Israeli Jews, 78%, continue to support the month-long war on Iran and Lebanon, according to recent polls. In Israel, only a minority are opposed to Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu and the war. Avishai, a retired professor of political science, is among them. He lived and taught in Cyprus for 10 years and now visits as a tourist.
My position is against the government and against the war. There are children in Gaza, having been through what they've been in the last 2 years. I can't see them growing up without hatred. I see the children growing up in Israel with their fears, with the prospect of serving in wars and wars and wars for the rest of their lives. I was 6 when Israel was founded, and when I went to first year in school, we were in shelters and in bombs, and I'm now 85 and I'm in shelters and bombs.
How do you feel about the fact that the opposition is still a minority in Israel?
The minority is not always a minority, and there is a hope for change.
At the time of editing my report in mid-April, more than 2,000 people had been killed in Lebanon. What are numbers to the wider public can be family or friends to the Lebanese diaspora. In Cyprus, many of the 20,000 people of Lebanese descent watch the news with horror and worry. Some are still trying to put their lives back together and keep the pain at bay.
I grew up in Lebanon. Besides the war, I had a great childhood, and the beauty of Lebanon is inside me. It's my country, it's my people, and wherever I go, it stays with me. The Lebanese people are resilient, but now, if you ask any Lebanese, they don't want to be resilient anymore. They are tired. We are all tired.
Over 3 million people have been displaced in Iran and another 1 million within Lebanon since the war began. Humanitarian agencies warn of a potential refugee crisis. In Cyprus, the authorities say they remain vigilant, despite the country not having seen large waves of refugees so far. The Cypriot migration minister believes the EU's new pact on migration and asylum should help avoid a repeat of the 2015 crisis, when the Syrian civil war caused the largest refugee movement in Europe since World War II.
Things have changed since the last refugee crisis in 2015. We've got more robust legislation, and we believe that we're more ready now to deal with new refugee crisis. We are getting ready for the implementation of the EU Pact on Migration and Asylum in June.
It's also been pretty controversial. So are you going to support more people coming towards Cyprus or less people?
So the new legislation gives us an opportunity to perform stricter controls at the borders, expedite our asylum procedures, and improve our return procedures as well. So it's a general, comprehensive, cohesive legal framework that will enable us to improve our procedures.
If you are going to have hundreds of thousands of people coming from Lebanon or Iran, what's going to happen?
We have to examine on an individualized basis each application, of course, in order to ascertain whether these individuals are really in danger.
Everyday life in Cyprus goes on as it almost always has, relaxed. The Middle East war watched from afar, as if not looking too directly might keep it at bay. I left Cyprus feeling the island is already being shaped by the war, more than people are aware of, and the authorities are prepared to admit.